is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the SIG Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum Microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now here in the SIG Sauer Studios. Mark Walters in front of the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center powerful microphone on dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of radio stations around the nation today, and to tens and tens of thousands of you podcast listeners. We love each and every one of you. It's all being brought to you by the great X Insurance. Greg in Dallas, Tejas, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good. It's Friday.
It's your favorite day of the week, and we have a really interesting day planned for today. I don't have a guest on today. Paul Markle is training in Texas today.
I think he's out in East Texas today, if I remember correctly.
He's not too far from you.
Probably an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Yeah, AWR just left today, or last night, I should say. He's speaking at the Reagan Ranch over the weekend. You know, he does that a couple times a year. That's really cool stuff. We'll see if we can get him in on Sunday. Don't know what his travel plans are. But Stephen Gutowski will be joining us. Been trying to schedule Stephen for a while. He's written some great pieces over at the Reload. He'll be joining us on Sunday. We wrap that up today. Mancow Mueller will be here at some point. We're working with Todd Pyro. We've got some great guests lining up for us as we go forward. And we're also working on bringing Thomas Massey to the program, too.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, you know, he's got a little dust up, a little row going on with Trump. You know, want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, you know, I think at the end of the day, Thomas was right in his assertion that this bill should not have passed. But, you know, the Democrats are eating their own, and we love it. And Chuck Schumer caved, and let's move on forward about it.
Speaking of the Democrats being stupid, well, you didn't say that. I did. You said they were eating their own. But David Hogg, our favorite friend over on the anti-gun side, just posted I guess it was a rally that Bernie Sanders and AOC were attending.
Oh, gosh.
And it had, you know, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't call it a big crowd, but it
40
was,
people?
I don't know, it was bigger than that. It had a few thousand people in it. And David Hogg tweets out, X is out, formerly known as X, formerly known as Twitter. He puts a tweet out that says, this is what we need, more of this. And I said, yeah, it is exactly what we need more of. This is so stupid. They're just not looking at the numbers. But anyway, if you would tell people where to watch us today and where to participate in the chat, and we'll get started. I've got a phenomenal, really cool story to share with you. We're going to play the audio, and we'll stop it. It's about an 18-minute clip, and it is utterly fascinating, of a U.S. judge, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals judge, Lawrence Van Dyke, taking down his colleagues when they ruled in favor of upholding California's magazine capacity ban. And the judge did something very unique. We'll get into that as soon as you give us all that dope and where to watch and listen and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know this channel existed, so I had to subscribe to it just to see their future releases. But anyways, if you want to watch the show, just search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over on YouTube and Rumble. On X, it's at AAR Mark. If you want to join our live chat, just head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
And I'm the one that takes over the Facebook deal. You can watch us on Facebook. Yep. You can watch us over on Facebook at facebook.com/Armed American Radio. If you're watching on any of the social media platforms, please repost them, and help us take back our social media. It's opening up for us now, and we appreciate that. Appreciate your help in doing that. So where are we going here? This is really cool stuff, because I have never seen a video dissent from a judge. Have you?
No, I haven't. This is a first for me. Like I said, I didn't know this channel existed. I've seen other judges do things, but this is interesting.
I'm sipping on my sugar-free Red Bull.
Yeah, to have a channel on YouTube and have I like this transparency. Really, I kind of, that's why I subscribed. I'm like, awesome, I love this transparency. Let's see what else comes out. And if there are other district courts that have YouTube channels, I'd love to follow them too. So I'm gonna look around.
Yeah, it's fascinating because he issued a dissent. So an appeals court ruled, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday. Then the appeals court is being the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, that California's law banning gun magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition can remain in place. A decision, and I quote from The Guardian, okay, because why not? Because it's fun. That prompted one judge to record an unusual video dissent that shows him loading guns in his chambers. Now, okay, he was not loading guns in his chambers. All right, this is the nonsense garbage that you get. Let me read that again. An unusual video dissent that shows him loading guns in his chambers.
Yeah. So what if he is?
Well, he didn't. That's the point. He did not. In fact, he makes it clear that he rendered all of the pieces he was using in the video inoperable. In other words, they were not loaded, ladies and gentlemen, but this judge knows his stuff. And the first thing I did when I started watching that part of the video, I immediately thought, I hope that moron goon ATF firearm expert is watching, because this judge expertly takes down several firearms and explains it on camera what he's doing, and he does it expertly. He's clearly highly trained. He also has a competition gun, so he clearly shoots competition. And it was just remarkable to watch. The Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circus, that we always refer to them as the most overturned court in America, ruled in a 7-4 decision that the law was permissible under the Second Amendment, the banning of magazines, because large capacity magazines are not considered arms or protected accessories. Now, this judge, Lawrence Van Dyke, just takes them down. He does it expertly, professionally, as you would expect a judge to do, and it's fascinating to watch. And just a little bit more backstory here as we get ready to start this for you. Even if they were, according to The Guardian, California's ban, quote, falls within the nation's tradition of protecting innocent persons by prohibiting especially dangerous uses of weapons and by regulating components necessary to the firing of a firearm. That's from the opinion in the 7-4 decision. Judge Lawrence Van Dyke, of course, he disagreed and included a link to the video that we're going to play for you. And it was a video of himself in his chambers. And unbelievable, he's got an AK-47, a Kalashnikov, on the wall behind him in his chambers.
I was going to point that out. Is that a 74 or a 47?
It's hard to tell on the glance on there.
It is.
I've owned both of those. It might be a 74.
It looks like a 74 to me.
It might be, but it looks commemorative because it appears to have some type of gold or brass plaque on the stock, if you notice.
Correct.
If you look carefully.
I just dropped the link in the chat, so if you're there and you want to watch along with us, you can head over there. And
yeah, it's possible it could be a replica. I don't know. In California, it likely is a replica. But this judge clearly knows his caca, okay? He gets it. He understands it. What's that?
He knows the dope.
Oh, he knows the dope. The judge is dope, no question about it.
Yep.
And Van Dyke made clear, and you'll hear this as we go through it. We'll start the tape in the next segment because it does run 18 minutes, and we'll stop it from time to time whenever we feel like it, whenever we get the whim to do so. But he said, this is the first video like this that I've ever made. I share this because a rudimentary understanding of how guns are made, sold, used, and commonly modified makes obvious why California's proposed test and the one my colleagues are adopting today simply does not work. Now, this is where the Guardian gets their panties all up in a wad. He handles several guns in his chambers, demonstrates how they are loaded and fired. He does not load anything. He does not fire anything. But again, I go up there. It says right in this, shows him loading guns in his chambers. I guess to the Guardian, inserting an empty magazine in a magwell is loading a firearm.
Yeah, to them. They're probably taking the you treat every firearm as if it's loaded rule too seriously here.
I don't even think they know that rule.
They probably don't.
It reminds me a little bit of Ohio years back before they got with the game. And, you could be arrested for having a loaded firearm in your vehicle even if the gun was not chambered. If you had a loaded magazine anywhere near the vicinity of the firearm, Ohio considered that a loaded firearm. That's not the case anymore. It should have never been the case. But this is the type of reporting that is, if you're not paying attention, if you don't know, or as the judge says, if you do not have a rudimentary understanding, you would take this at face value, and if you were to walk away and say, man, did you see that judge loading guns in his chambers? He should be impeached. He
The
should be
normies are
disbarred.
going to say that.
Right. Yeah, because this is the way they report this stuff. It's all fake. It's all garbage. But when we come back from this break, we're going to start the video. We're going to play it for you. And we'll stop it whenever we feel like it. I've given Greg a green light. Greg, if you want to stop it to comment on something, you don't need to say, can I stop? Just stop it and bring the comment up, because this is great stuff. It is a classic professional takedown, literally a takedown of his colleagues in such an incredibly professional manner, in such a way that when the tape is over, it's checkmate. Absolutely checkmate. When we come back, we'll play this fantastic audio of the judge in his chambers on Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. We'll be back right after this, 21 minutes after the hour. Don't go away. Bringing my audio back up for you for just a second for those of you in the chat. Barbara Whittington, brilliant comment, question. So was the judge chambering in his chambers? He was not chambering in his chambers because there was nothing in it. But yes, so it's a brilliant question. I love that. Thanks for putting that up there, guys.
following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. Mark Walters in the 6 Hour Studios with you in front of the Patriot Mobile mic. We were supposed to have Patriot Mobile on Thursday, but we were unable to connect, so we're going to be bringing them on one day next week. You'll hear from Patriot Mobile. Don't know who yet, but we will be hearing from Patriot Mobile. Make sure to check out all of our partners. Make this possible every single day. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. And we're going to have a really cool promotion coming up with Barrel Buddy for you. And the winners of that promotion are going to be just slap happy. Just going to be really slap happy. All right, Greg, so here we go. Let's run Judge Lawrence Van Dyke from his chambers in a highly unusual and incredibly cool video dissent. Take a listen to this judge.
Hi, I'm Judge Van Dyke, and welcome to my chambers. I'm making this video as part of my opinion in the Duncan v. Bonta case. In this case, the state of California made the argument, which the majority has now accepted, that a magazine holding more than 10 rounds is just an accessory, not an arm protected by the Second Amendment's right of the people to keep and bear arms. I think anyone with a basic familiarity with firearms could show you that this attempted distinction is simply inconsistent with reality. I alluded to this during oral argument when I asked California's counsel about the balance of the test that it proposed for what qualifies as an arm protected by the Second Amendment. Let's go to that exchange now.
Magazine and
Can I ask you a question
intended.
about that? Because
Yes, Your Honor.
so the way you're treating magazines, it seems like you could use the same sort of rationale as between a non-semi-automatic firearm, say a lever action or a bolt action or a revolver type action, and a semi-automatic firearm. So I'm trying to figure out if you're saying, well, what we do is we say have people ever banned particularly dangerous rounds, and now we're saying large capacity magazines are particularly dangerous. Why couldn't that same reasoning be used to ban semi-automatic firearms altogether? To say, because I mean, think about it, like during the Revolutionary War, if the United States had had semi-automatic firearms that only held 5 to 10 rounds.
Commercial.
Greg will get there. We go.
Yeah, let me skip.
In about 10 minutes, and it would have been over, right, as against muskets. So clearly, the semi-automatic mechanism is way, 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 way more particularly dangerous than the difference, the delta between a 10-round magazine and a 15-round magazine. So why does your reasoning not mean that, if this reasoning works, why does your reasoning not mean that a state could just ban the semi-automatic firearms altogether?
So if we're just start talking, Your Honor, about this initial sort of textual question, I think if you're dealing with a semi-automatic, that would fit the definition of an arm.
No, but that semi-automatic could be a revolver. Like it could be, I mean, just like that high-capacity magazine could be a lower-capacity magazine.
Right, Your Honor. So I think that would fit the definition of arm, and then you'd move on to the other aspects of the Bruin analysis. At stage one, is a particular weapon that's being addressed by the law in the tradition of dangerous and unusual? Is it in common use for self-defense? And we think Heller is clear that has to consider the character as well as the
I'm not understanding
numbers.
I think I'm missing your response to my, it seems to me that just as you could say, are you saying that yes, so it would be an arm under, you're not conceding that it would be an arm under stage one. So why are you saying it wouldn't be an arm, but the semi-automatic versus revolver, say, distinction is something that we're stuck with? I mean, you would agree that you can't ban the automatic mechanism.
Well, an automatic mechanism, I think that you can ban. I think the Supreme Court has recognized
No,
that
the
as
automatic mechanism is a term that semi-autos and full autos use an automatic mechanism.
Sure, Your Honor. I'm sorry for the confusion. No, I don't think that we could ban all semi-automatic weapons. I think Heller makes that clear. The point I was just making is with respect to accessories, I think we have a difference of opinion where my friends suggest any accessory that is somehow helpful to armed self-defense.
So that's important because your argument turns on whether you can characterize accessory. So you would say that the revolver versus semi-automatic is not an accessory, but that a magazine is this accessory. So what would you think about like a red dot sight, electro-optics, which many firearms are going to electronic optics nowadays. They're obviously an accessory because you could have iron sights. Could you ban those?
Well, so Your Honor, I'm not intimately familiar with that, and I do want to answer this question and make sure that I
Greg,
save
stop
time
the tape
for
for a second.
rebuttal. I think
Stop that tape for a second. He's not in. He is, and he just got caught with his pants down, and that was his out. You follow me?
Yeah.
He is. He knows damn good and well what a red dot site is. The judge just asked him a question that would have destroyed his argument. So what does he do? He says, well, I'm not intimately familiar with that.
Feigns ignorance.
That was just feigning ignorance so that he could move on because he knew he just got caught. All right, let's keep going.
I wanted to point out, I don't know if everybody else caught this when he was talking about the magazine capacity. He said, just like a high capacity magazine could be a low capacity magazine, insisting that a 15-round mag could hold 5 rounds and you still shoot it as a normal magazine.
Correct. And he's going to go into greater detail on that about halfway through. Go for it.
The question at the outset would be, is that, if it's an accessory, is it within the Teixeira principle that it's necessary to the realization of the right to self-defense? And you'd have to build a record and analyze it in that case.
So, counsel, you're saying...
Now, from this exchange, it became clear to me that many, including both California's counsel and my colleagues in the majority in this case, lacked the basic familiarity with firearms to understand the inherent shortcomings and obvious inadmissibility of the test that California was proposing, and which the majority in this case has now adopted. I originally planned to explain all of this in writing, in my opinion, and why the argument doesn't make sense, but it occurred to me that in this instance, showing is much more effective than telling. As the old saying goes, a picture is sometimes worth 1,000 words, and here I hope you will agree that a video is at least worth that much. And I suppose at this point in the video is as good a time as any to apologize for any shortcomings of the video. This is the first video like this that I've ever made, and in our digital age, I fear that people have become accustomed to a production quality that I'm sure that I fall far short of. But I hope and expect that regardless of any such flaws, this video will still powerfully serve the purpose for which I've made it. I also want to emphasize that for safety purposes, I have rendered inoperable all the guns and gun parts that I use to demonstrate today. And finally, as an appellate body, it's obviously not our role to make factual determinations, so I share this not to supplement the factual record that we're using to decide this case. Instead, I share this because a rudimentary understanding of how guns are made, sold, used, and commonly modified makes obvious why California's proposed test and the one my colleagues are adopting today simply does not work. I'm sure I could explain all of this in writing without being accused of improper fact-finding, but it's obviously much more effective to simply show you. So let's do that now.
All right,
Foundation
now,
damage.
Let's go ahead and stop there. You'll get through the commercial on that. And I'll paint some theater of the mind for you. He was seated at his desk in his chambers through that entire exchange you just heard. When we come back, he will be, how much time do we have, Greg?
We're a little over a minute.
All right, so let's just talk about this. When we come back, we'll continue. And we'll run this through the next 2 segments and break it down and talk to you about it as we move through it.
Or a little under a minute, I mean.
Okay, he then moves
40.
and relocates to what appears to be the other side of his chamber. He's got a nice office in there too, by the way. Play some theater of the mind. I guess
He does.
judges in the appellate level have nice chambers. And he's got the camera set up a little bit farther back, and he's got a table in front of him. He's standing behind the table, and he has several firearms on the table. And I love this because the gun that he uses is a SIG P320.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Oh, yeah. He makes it clear that it is. He's not afraid of the P320 firing accidentally without a trigger pull, okay? Because it really doesn't, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking with SIG about that in the near future. But regardless, there's a little bit of theater of the mind. So when we come back, he is standing behind a table. He's got several guns, including a revolver, in front of him, including his competition gun, beautiful little race gun. And then he dumps some parts out. This is just so fun to listen to. So I hope you enjoy it. The judge is very concise and clear, as you would expect from his honor. We'll be back right after this to continue through the tape.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision, ladies and gentlemen. Have you gotten on the email list yet? Do yourself a solid and do that. Visit DanielDefense.com. You can do that. Visit all of our partners, ArmedAmericanRadio.com, SIG Sauer Studios, Patriot Mobile. Mike lit up. And Martin in the chat communicated. He said, that was interesting. He said, you said that you and Patriot Mobile couldn't connect. That was because we were texting back and forth. That was an interesting play on words, Martin. You caught that. I like the way you guys think over there in the chat room. We appreciate you guys very much. All this is being brought to you by the Great X Insurance. Great X Insurance. Make sure to give them a shout too. And all of our partners, HeavensHarvest.com, BudsGunShop.com, BudsGunShop.com, Patriots Relief, PatriotsRelief.com. You can find them all. We'll talk about more of them coming up throughout the broadcast, but they're all available for you at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. All right, Greg, let's continue. Now, he now moves behind this table, cameras away from him, and here we go.
Welcome back. To demonstrate, I'm going to start with the SIG P320 that's basically in its stock configuration. That is, this gun is basically in the same configuration it would come to you from the manufacturer and be sold to you at a retailer. This is one of the most popular handguns currently on the market in the United States. And so I'm going to use this to point out some of the essential parts of a handgun. These same parts would exist on pretty much every handgun, at least of this semi-automatic type. So let me start by pointing out a few of them. This one comes with a standard 21 round magazine. Comes from factory just like that. You can buy a similar version that comes with a 17 round magazine that fits flush. And so it comes with 21 or 17 round magazine. It has a standard full-size grip. It has a factory trigger, which has a pull weight of about 7 pounds or so. Has front and rear iron sights that are used to aim the firearm. It has this little takedown lever, which is small, and you may have trouble seeing it, but we're going to talk about that some later. And that's what you use to remove the slide and disassemble the firearm. And the entire gun is designed around the automatic cycling mechanism. That is, when you pull the trigger and fire a round, right when that happens, it automatically will rack the slide back, eject the round, the spent cartridge out of the gun. It will grab a new round out of the magazine, put that round into the chamber, into the barrel, and it'll be ready to fire another round the next time you pull the trigger. So this is a semi-automatic firearm. Now, I want to use this handgun to illustrate first California and the majority's argument as applied to this obviously typical and very common handgun, and then I want to show you that the same argument would apply to other parts of the firearm and to this firearm as a whole. Now, as a reminder, California's argument, which the majority's adopted here, is that a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds is not an arm protected by the Second Amendment. So this 21 round magazine that comes from the factory or a 17 round magazine is not an arm protected by the Second Amendment. Now, California acknowledges that a magazine is necessary to make the firearm function, but they argue that because you can replace the standard magazine with one that holds fewer rounds, 10 rounds or less, then these higher capacity magazines are not an arm and thus wholly unprotected by the Second Amendment. Now, the problem with California's argument is that, as I pointed out in oral argument, the exact same argument would apply to essentially every part on this firearm, which would mean that essentially nothing on this firearm would be protected by the Second Amendment. Allow me to illustrate that using this firearm. Now, in oral argument, I asked California's counsel if their argument meant that the sights on this firearm are not protected by the Second Amendment. And part of the reason I'm making this video is because it didn't appear that counsel understood what I was asking. So take a look again at this handgun. What you see on here are iron sights. You have a front and a rear iron sight. And the way that you fire this handgun, the way you aim it, is you take and you line up these two sights and you line them up on what you want to shoot at. And that's how you hit what you're aiming at with this firearm. These are iron sights. They're probably the most common sighting system for a handgun. But all you have to do on this particular handgun to change out the sights is remove two screws in this slide right here, and the back sight comes off. And when you do that, you can put the two screws back into a red dot optic, and now you will have a firearm that instead of having iron sights would have a red dot optic. Let me illustrate that by just taking a slide where I've already installed the red dot optic, and here you go. See, so now you have this back iron sight's been taken off, and here's a red dot optic. Now, in the hands of an experienced shooter, this red dot optic allows you to shoot the firearm more quickly, to get on target more quickly, to hit what you're aiming at, be more accurate. And so it's obviously much more dangerous if it's being used for an unlawful or wrong purpose. But if it's being used for a lawful purpose, then it makes the firearm better for that intended purpose. So this firearm would be better for self-defense or competition, recreational shooting, or hunting. And indeed, my own self-defense handgun, which this is another P320 that's been configured slightly differently, has a red dot optic precisely because it makes the firearm better for its intended purpose, that is self-defense. It makes it more accurate more quickly and shoot more quickly. Now, so in that sense, this red dot optic is just like this magazine. It makes the firearm more dangerous when it's misused, but it also makes the firearm work better for its intended purpose when it's used properly.
Greg, stop
To get started in data analytics.
Well, that was great timing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a YouTube video, and earlier today, I don't believe the video had enough likes or views to be monetized, but apparently YouTube has monetized the video now.
Yep.
Greg, but what he's done, he took that gun apart expertly, he reassembled it, he showed you how to put a sight on it very quickly. So the guy knows exactly what he's talking about. He showed you his competition gun, so he clearly is a highly trained and experienced shooter. You would agree, right?
Yes, I would.
Would you also agree that the ATF clown experts might want to take lessons from this judge?
Yeah, you could probably teach him a thing or two.
Might be able to teach him a thing or three, I would venture to say. At least the old group that was there and is no longer there anymore now that Dettelbach's out. I don't know if the firearm expert that was there with Dettelbach is still involved with the ATF or not. He may very well be.
He's back under his rock somewhere.
Yeah, he probably is. He's probably. I don't know if he ever came out of his rock after he made that stupid video, but let's just continue for the next couple of moments here. So I just wanted to give you that shot. And from time to time, ladies and gentlemen, you might hear Greg have to stop it because an ad pops up as the video is obviously being monetized now.
That's pretty intuitive about the sighting system for a firearm, but the same thing is true about basically every part of this gun. Let's take a look at a part that's maybe a little less intuitive, which is that takedown lever that I talked about earlier. This little piece here, it's necessary for the operation of the firearm. It's a tiny little piece that you need to have for the firearm. And so you would think, well, since it's necessary, then it must be an arm protected by the Second Amendment. But not under California's logic in this case. See, you can replace this factory takedown lever with a different factory takedown lever. This one's called a gas pedal. And when you do that, you replace it, you put the slide back on. Now the firearm is a lot more controllable under recoil. You can, just like with the red dot sight, you can do faster follow-up shots. You can aim the gun more quickly, and you can control it better. So again, as with the red dot sight, as with the higher capacity magazine, this particular takedown lever makes the gun more dangerous when it's misused, but also makes the gun more effective for its intended purpose when it's used properly. So under California's logic, because this is an accessory, this little takedown lever, and could be replaced with a worse part, this little takedown lever is not protected. It's not part of the arm protected by the Second Amendment. Well, you might ask yourself, well, what about the grip? Like, you think this grip, certainly it must be part of the arm. I mean, it seems like that's a pretty key part of a firearm, is the grip of a pistol. Well, actually, under the majority's argument, it would not be protected. And the reason is, here's a bunch of grips that
All right, stop the tape, Greg. Let's take this to the break. He just dumped out about a dozen grips, right?
Yeah.
Lowers.
30.
Now, as I was watching this, I'm thinking to myself, how much of what he has in his chambers is illegal under California law?
Yeah, are these a bunch
Currently.
of P80s?
You know, I mean, what's this guy, maybe the judge needs to rethink what he's doing. I don't know. But he clearly had 21 round magazines in there. Maybe he's held to a different standard because he's a judge. I don't know. But this guy clearly carries a firearm. He makes it very clear that this particular gun is, in fact, his carry gun. And he mentions that when he talks about when he interchanges the lower out, changes the. So it's the guy is remarkable. And many of you are probably thinking, wow, put this guy on the Supreme Court, right? Yeah. Bringing a justice out of the Ninth Circus. This might make sense. We'll be back. One more segment to go. Don't go away. Scott Allen in the chat on Telegram. I like your comment. I'm going to read your comment when we come back quickly. I think you make a good point, but I want to counter it. But I'm going to disagree with you, and I'll explain why when we come back from the break. But I appreciate the comment. Thanks for putting that out there. You bring up a good topic to discuss real quick.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Visit them all, ladies and gentlemen. You can find all of those great partners of ours at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Pick up the MyPillow stuff. Use the AAR promo code. Anywhere you go at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Of course, Defender Coffee, Crossbreed Holstered, Emerson Knives. Beautiful knives. Used it 3 times today. Sits right here in the drawer with me in the studio. I use it every single day. Promo code AAR gets you 10% off one of those fantastic knives at Emerson. ArmedAmericanRadio.com, and you can find them all there. I want to quickly mention a comment from Scott Allen in the chat, Greg, on Telegram. He said, I will rewatch this judge's video later tonight, but my initial takeaway is that this is too in-depth, in quotes, and logical to be much of a persuasive use for those who don't understand the basic premise of the 2A and arms in general as envisioned by the founders. Too many details. Who needs all these details? He goes on. And Scott, I love your comment. I want to disagree for one reason. Not with your basic premise, but with the fact that to anyone who does not understand firearms at all, who has no rudimentary knowledge, it is very clear by watching this judge that he does. And while you might not understand everything he's saying, you could easily take away from that, this guy does know what he's talking about. There are some intelligent people out there that can figure that out. So I don't think I'm disagreeing with you as much as saying, just expanding a little bit on what you said. But you bring up a great point, and thank you for participating in the chat, all of you. Greg, let's continue with this remarkable video dissent from Judge Lawrence Van Dyke.
I'm just going to pull a couple out here. This is a nice small grip, a nice small light grip. This is a big heavy grip. So what you can do on this firearm is you can remove the slide, remove that takedown lever.
If you're watching
take what's
ATF,
called the fire control unit out of the firearm. This is actually the firearm under the ATF's definition. And you can take this fire control lever and you can put it inside this smaller grip. And you could use this grip for, say, self-defense purposes because it's very concealable, it's light, it's easy to carry, and indeed, you'll see that's pretty much the type of grip that I have on my self-defense firearm. Or you could take this much heavier grip with aggressive stippling on it and with a flared mag well, and you could put this fire control unit in there, put the takedown lever on, and then you put the slide back on, and now you have a firearm that is much better at being able to take quick follow-up shots, hit what you're aiming at. And so this grip, all of these grips under the majority in California's logic could be banned because if they were misused, they would make the firearm more dangerous, and you could put a different type of grip on if you wanted to. So you might ask yourself, well, what part of this pistol would be protected as an arm under the majority's logic? Well, I suppose California would eventually be forced to say, well, this part, the FCU, I guess, is the arm protected by the Second Amendment. Every other part that you added, as I've just shown you, every other part that you added could easily be characterized, just like the magazine, as an accessory that you add to the firearm, and therefore could be banned under the Second Amendment. But not so fast. Even this part, the FCU, the core basic part of the firearm, could be banned under the majority's rationale. And the reason is, let me show you another FCU. This is the FCU from my competition gun. It has a really nice trigger, a nice light, crisp trigger, and has some parts replaced in here. It makes for a really nice trigger. You can upgrade the trigger to make it much nicer. And so because of that, under the majority's logic, you could even ban this FCU, or at least most of it, as simply an accessory and now protected by the Second Amendment.
Stand up.
Oh, there's one of those ads.
One of those pesky ads.
That's okay. They make the world go round.
Now, most of what I've shown you could, I suppose, be conceptualized as upgrades. You say, well, that's an upgraded trigger, and that's an upgraded takedown lever, and that's an upgraded grip. But the majority's logic works both ways. I've just shown you how you could easily improve the sights, how you could easily improve the takedown lever, you can improve the grip and the trigger, you could do the same thing with the barrel. But you could easily downgrade all of these factory parts of the handgun to make the firearm less accurate and slower. You could put in worse than factory trigger. You could require worse sights than what it comes with from the factory. You could require a grip be put on that hurts the speed and accuracy. Indeed, this type of downgrade is precisely what the majority is actually requiring in this case. As we mentioned earlier, this comes from the factory with a 21-round magazine, or it comes with a 17-round magazine in a slightly different configuration. But the majority is requiring that these factory standard parts be replaced with worse than factory parts, a 10-round magazine. So when we take everything off that the majority might call it accessory, what we're left with at best is this fire control unit. And as I've explained, even that could be dumbed down so that much of this fire control unit would be an accessory under California's argument. And of course, you can't shoot this, right? It's inoperable. You need all the other accessories that I've been describing in order to make this work as a firearm. But of course, also each of these other pieces, just like this magazine, could in some way be considered an accessory, since they could be replaced with a different part that would be less useful and make the gun less dangerous if misused. And that could be said for pretty much every single part of this handgun. And the same problem with the majority's argument applies to other aspects of the firearm that are less easily shown in the video, including fundamental aspects of how this firearm operates. At oral argument, I asked California's counsel why California couldn't ban the automatic cycling mechanism altogether under the California's argument. And again, I don't think he understood what I was talking about. Well, this handgun uses that mechanism. This uses the automatic cycling mechanism. And this semi-automatic auto-loading operation is the most popular mechanism that exists today and is used for self-defense. But other mechanisms exist for handguns, including probably most obviously the revolver mechanism. Here's a revolver. Think of the 6-shooter from the old Western movies, right? You can have a revolver which is not automatic. Or you could have, and there's different types of revolvers. There's single shots, there's double actions. You could have the lever action, you could have a pump action, you could have a single shot break action, which only has one round. You have to open it up and manually take the round out and put another in. And under California's argument, because any of these single types of mechanisms are not essential to make this handgun work, and thus, or make a handgun work, and thus are not an arm under the Second Amendment, California could ban the whole semi-automatic mechanism altogether, thereby effectively banning semi-automatic handguns altogether,
Boom.
Forcing everyone to use revolvers or single-shot handguns or worse. And of course, with bad sights, crazy heavy trigger pulls, a terrible grip, you get the point. Ultimately, California's argument, which the majority has unwisely adopted here, is based on the unstated assumption that there's some basic, unadorned, without any accessories firearm that would be protected as an arm under the text of the Second Amendment, but everything else is merely an unprotected accessory that's been added to that firearm that's unprotected. And I hope you can tell from this video that that idea is simply unrealistic and could never be applied in real life. Like many of this court's ideas about the Second Amendment, it stems from a basic misunderstanding of how,
coming up on music,
combined with a highly unrealistic idea of how such a rule would be administered.
All right, you go ahead and cut it right there. I think it's a perfect place to stop it. Well done, Your Honor. Well done. The timing was perfect, Greg. I think the only thing we didn't hear this judge say was checkmate.
I'd like to take this video in when they argue the Vanderbilt case on frames and receivers.
And Vanderstock, yeah.
Yeah, Vanderstock, my bad. And let this video just play as evidence for that case as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, Judge Lawrence Van Dyke for a nomination to the Supreme Court when it comes to gun rights, ladies and gentlemen. This guy clearly gets it. and he understands just how wrong the other side is. It was an expert takedown, pun intended. I'll get it out now. I'm just so excited by the judge. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will be here on Sunday evening until we meet on the radio. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio on Sunday.
Work.
Scott, let me reply to your other comment here real quick, and thanks for engaging in the conversation. I think your last statement is correct. Then again, persuading those kind of folks may not have been the real intention with his video. 4D Chesnall, you are spot dead on, my brother. And here's the thing. I believe the intention of this video was just a pure dig at the rest on the court, and it might very well have been an application for a job. Because this guy would make a great Supreme Court justice, obviously, when it comes to Second Amendment issues, because he clearly gets it. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Please do yourself a solid, do the show a solid, and support our partners. Visit them this weekend. Pick something cool up from them, all of them, over at armedamericanradio.com. Here's the deal. We're going to start our weekend just like you. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio on Sunday, guys. Thanks for being here.